Okay, we are back. Another
We are back.
episode.
Yep.
Variant covers. Here we are to
Okay.
talk about
What are we talking
X-Men
about?
97.
X-Men 97
Continued,
episode.
right? We caught up episode what? Three, no, four, five,
Yeah, 4,
six,
5,
even
6,
seven.
and possibly 7.
And I am wearing my honorary Jim Lee X-Men t-shirt for X-Men 97, and also because
Very nice.
you had the opportunity.
I did get a chance to meet Frank quietly, who is also an X-Men artist.
Yeah.
He is also an X-Men artist. Yes.
Yeah. Did he create Beak?
He might have
I
created
think he
Beak.
created Beak.
He might be the Beak creator.
Yeah,
He,
and
he
right
also
now I
created
happen to see
Cassandra Nova.
I shared with you the first ever Beak cover original artwork is on sale. So I don't know
Ooh.
what that's going to cost, but it went on sale today.
Well, I know how much I'd put in a bid for.
Go ahead. You want to say it?
$111,000.
No, your lame joke.
About what?
That it's
Oh,
going to be cheap,
it's
cheap,
gonna go
cheap.
for it's gonna go for cheap, cheap, cheap. So stupid.
All right.
Shit.
Anyway, so moving
All
on.
right,
X-Men 97.
X-Men 97.
This
Okay, so
show has been so good. I'm
yep,
like so amazed and blown away. I mean, it's like that's what I expect from Marvel. Um,
yep.
the fourth episode, it was fine. It was like one of those kind of, I guess at this point, like now that I've seen the rest of them, just like a filler episode. I mean, you had Storm's life death story start, and that was interesting. Jubilee playing video games, and
Yeah.
did they did they did they allude to the fact that she's like an Omega level mutant or something in that episode? Her
Do
future
they?
self.
Yes, I think they do. Which is, I mean, at this point, pretty much anybody who likes a character just finds some flimsy excuse to make them into a Omega level mutant. You know,
Yeah. Hey, I
like
mean, she can
they're
make
like, I really like
sparkles
Beak, and I'm gonna find a way to make Maggot, Marrow, and Beak Omega level mutants
and gold balls.
and
Um,
gold balls. I'm
yeah,
gonna be like, oh, you don't know what's in those gold balls. You know what's in
yeah.
those gold balls? Omega stuff.
Well, I mean, we could talk about episode 4 and Mojo and all that, but honestly,
So
I
right,
was
yeah. So
so
all right.
I was so
Right. So of course,
floored.
like that's clearly a. I mean, look, there's some merits to that. One of it being the life death part one, right, which is great because you got an homage to Claremont and Barry Windsor Smith's one of his Barry Windsor Smith, who's very famous for Weapon X. That was one of his earlier stories with the X Men, doing that nice little storm piece, and it's his signature coloring and art are all over it, and they
Yeah,
even mimic a portion of that when you see her in many spots in that animated thing. There's like lines going through her hair that literally mimic exactly the way he drew her in that. So
yeah, it's very cool.
really deep cuts, very very amazing. Not to, I mean, we know we want to get to 5, but like, let's call out the cool stuff we can. I mean, we got Mojo. I finally got Mojo. I don't know if I like this voice, but it
Yeah,
was weird. I never imagined to have a high squeaky kind of voice like that, but okay.
I never imagined him to be like emaciated like that.
Yes, yeah, that was a weird start too. Yeah, that was a very weird start as well,
That
which kind of
honestly, I'm
throws
glad
them.
that they split it up because I don't think that Mojo story could have held its own for, a full episode. It would have just been stretching it. But
No, I mean, the minute you see Mojo, you either want to see Long Shot or X Babies, or you're out. I kind of
all right, well,
I to use
then
the
let's get
word.
on to the real meat and potatoes of it all
Oh,
because
okay.
X-Men episode number 5. Now, I only read afterwards that uh, Bo DeMeo, the showrunner, writer, whatever, his thoughts and ideas for the whole season and where how episode 5 fit in and applied, and was kind of like, I think what he called the September 11th moment, which um, I'm glad I didn't know that going into it. I was so shocked. I was floored. I mean, the writing was phenomenal. The execution was impeccable. I couldn't believe where they went with it. And I've read
Yeah.
those stories in the comics. I read that
Right. Yeah.
run,
Yeah.
Grant Morrison run, and I've seen that, and their homage to the actual like artwork there. But I know you didn't probably maybe it didn't hit you as much, but with Gambit, oh my god, that was like
It
hurt.
didn't. Yep.
I know, like, yeah, you were probably like, oh, good. And it's interesting that, I mean, it was,
You're like, probably you were like, good. Yeah,
you
because
probably
I don't
were,
like
but like,
Gambit that much.
what a great, what a great,
It was great. Yeah.
what a great story for him. And, what a great development of his character. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
the
you can't
greatest
go out
Gambit
like a
story is the
sucker.
one where he dies. But, um,
Yeah, the greatest Gambit story is the one where he dies. You're right.
but so good.
That's
And I
funny.
mean, just so much of it, Rogue just being, crying and being like, I can't feel you. The whole thing was like visceral when you saw her not being able to help because was it Nightcrawler? She couldn't like touch him because she didn't have her gloves on. So many
Mhm.
moments in that episode, you learn the like history of like Rogue and Magneto. I mean, it was so well done. And
Yeah,
it hurt,
and it
I don't care about
started.
Callisto, but watching the life come out of like her eyes just kind of like dilate while somebody else that like Leech, I think it was like, oh, Callista will
Yeah,
save us. And it was just like,
yeah,
oh
yep. While
man.
they cutting away to her dead body.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't
that
mean to
hurt.
laugh about that, but I'm like, yeah, it was good, um, well paced drama and tragedy.
So good. I was
Very,
in
very well done.
shock, like coming away from
Yeah,
that episode. And I watched it late. I didn't watch it day of. I watched
I
it.
heard him say he was going to compare it to the Red Wedding at the Game of Thrones, and I was like, you know what? I would say you did a superior job, not a superior job, but a superb job. I would say
Yeah,
you did a
that's how
superb
I
job. That was
felt. That's
it
the
worked
only
like that.
thing I could compare it to after watching it. I'm like, that was a red wedding moment, even though it wasn't as like gory or grotesque because it was
Right, of course, yeah.
a cartoon, but also it was interesting because I had read all of the Game of Thrones books, and so I knew what was coming when the Red Wedding episode aired, and it was just kind of a matter of like, oh, is it going to be this one? Is it going to be the next one? And it was like, oh, how are they going to like portray it? And it was kind of like rough to watch. I would never watch that
Yeah.
episode again. It was shocking. Um, but this, I didn't know that this was coming. I was
No, no, of
I
course.
was watching it by myself and like I said, I was in shock. I was like, "Oh, I don't know what to do." I immediately went to YouTube to watch people's reactions and see like people talking about it because I had watched it like 3 or 4 days later after it came out and I hadn't even seen like the like any spoilers or anything. So I was just sitting there like I don't uh, it was
Yeah, I
it was
watched
wild.
it on my couch. Allison was in the other room, and I was just like, "Oh, oh no!" Allison was like, she peeks her head around. She's like, my wife was like, "What are you doing out here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, they're like killing all these people in the X
Yeah.
Men
And I watched it in a VR headset with noise canceling headphones, which was the first time I had watched any X-Men episode, I think.
content like
So I
that."
was like totally I felt like I was in a movie theater by myself and it was just yeah. It was very impactful. I felt shell shocked after watching, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a shell shocking moment for
From
sure.
that point, I actually have gotten up and like I watched episode 6 and 7 and I guess it was 8, like, it was like Wednesday morning, like 8 AM. I'm like, told Marina, I gotta go downstairs. Like, I need to watch, I need to see what's going on because I was so on the edge of my seat to see where it went. And when I saw that episode 6 was titled Life Death Part 2, I was like, no, how could they
Yeah, yeah,
skip
yeah.
over? But I actually thought they did a great job, right? It
Yeah,
wasn't
of course.
just
Yeah,
that. They
yeah.
had Professor X's story, his return. They had the whole thing was just like, again, like really well done. And I didn't feel like, oh, they skipped over with the last 30 seconds being like, oh,
They have to
everybody
give
just,
you a breather. They have to give you a breather. They gave you a breather beforehand to trick you, which was perfect, well designed layout. They trick you into this false sense of security by watching that kind of like the personal drama of Storm, and then the kind of light thing with Jubilee, and then you get the bomb dropped on you, and then they just give you a minute to breathe, and
yeah,
then but you remember you got that great sequel with again with the Barry Windsor Smith life death Claremont story, which is a nice personal piece, and then you get all that other stuff with the Shi'ar, which I don't like the Shi'ar. I never liked that story. I don't like those characters. I don't like any of those characters.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
they are whatever to me. I'm not like, oh, I
yeah,
love
they're not
Gladiator,
my
but I don't. I'm not like, oh, I can't stand these characters. Um,
yeah.
it is what it is. I did feel like again, this is in a lot, sort of continuing our previous feelings that everything just seems to be moving so fast, right? Like I
Too
thought
fast. Again, too fast. And I think that's because they weren't sure if they were going to get another bite at this apple, maybe. But now they
maybe
can maybe pace it out slowly. But
I thought like
um,
I thought Professor X might return in the season finale, maybe the first episode of next season. Even Life Death Part One, right? It was 15 minutes of an episode, and within 15 minutes, Forge is like, "I'm in love with you," and I'm like, "Didn't you just meet?"
yeah,
Like, but I guess it was. Who knows how much time has passed in while he was trying to help restore her powers.
right.
And it was good.
Well, I
It was
mean,
good telling of that story, but I really loved.
they've been so good at their editing and everything that I highly doubt that they accidentally skipped an opportunity to expand upon their relationship. It probably is just a mistake of being like, oh no, it's like over a certain. Maybe he knew her from previously. I mean, when he comes to see her, doesn't he say Charles sent me to help you,
Yeah, but
or
he
somebody sent
didn't
me to
know
help you?
her.
But like, I'm a friend of Charles, right?
Yeah,
But it doesn't mean he didn't maybe wasn't an admirer of hers or a
stalking her.
stalker or something.
It's Facebook stalking her.
It's like,
But yeah,
he's like,
and that's fine. It is a cartoon. It's 30-minute episodes, and there's so many stories to tell. I don't mind. Um, I thought it was also interesting, actually, just sort of off topic, but every episode in that follow up, right? The Life Death Part Two, you had all these tie-ins to the MCU, right? Our characters we've seen. You had Ronan, the
yep,
Accuser, battling uh, the Shi'ar and Lilandra's
yeah,
sister. What is her name? Deathbird, something.
yeah,
In the
Deathbird,
beginning, in the next one, which we could go right into that. I love that seeing Rogue, like go rogue and just go nuts, and then she just did not care anymore. She was just pummeling everyone. Captain America, she just whips his shield like out. And again,
yeah,
Captain America, another crossover. We get to see Captain America, and
yep,
her heartbreak, the funeral, everybody crying. I mean, again, it was like visceral, super emotional. Her breaking down at the end and crying. I was tearing up. I mean, these are cartoon characters, but still, these are characters I've had with me my whole life. So, watching these
yeah,
stories play out was, I got emotional. It's pretty wild.
yeah. It's actually even more fun for me to watch you get excited over it than for me even because I know that like for me it would be like if we were doing a review right now of like a newly relaunched Batman the animated series or a newly relaunched I don't know something else that I'd love like a GI
Hey,
Joe
there's
cartoon or
a
something like that
Craven
like
movie coming soon. You can get
uh,
excited about.
you can watch me and watch the joy in my face as I do the review of whatever that is. You'll be like, oh, I've been waiting for this, not because of the joy, but because of us getting kicked off YouTube for so much profanity. Oh my god. Uh,
But yeah,
so
so
yeah, that was great. And then um, yeah, so I liked how well all the emotions are going through this whole thing. Like they're handling the emotions really good. The pacing is just way too fast, man. I mean,
it
they're
is
going, but
fast, but like it's not.
at this
It
rate, they're going to
doesn't
be
bother
right
me.
up to the. No, no, it doesn't bother me at all. I just wish that they would take more time because other than that, if that's not the case, they're going to go through every Claremont X-Men story in the next 3 weeks.
The Again, like it's the pacing doesn't. There's times when pacing of a show feels way too slow, and I thought like the movie Dune was very well done, but For me, it could have been like an hour and 45 minutes instead of 2 hours and 45 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
I just felt like it was too slow. And there's times where things move too fast. Can't think of an example, but whatever. And this, it's moving fast, but I don't feel like I'm missing anything. It's just,
No, no, they're truncating the stories as opposed to, dragging them out, which is good.
yeah.
I
And,
mean, we've
it's
seen
just
stories that are,
the writing is so good that like the way that, there's just aspects that just are, it's very, again, emotional, it's poetic, there's, there's depth to it, and so I'm really
Mhm.
appreciating that. And you know I was excited when they announced X-Men 97. There are people out there, I don't think so, enjoyed most of what Marvel's put out or the stuff that I'm into. um I'm not like, oh my god, Ant-Man Quantumania was the worst movie to ever hit theaters. I was like, okay, it was fine. There were parts that I liked, parts I didn't like. Could have been better, yeah. Like, I wasn't like that was terrible, horrible, I can't watch that. Wasn't the worst Marvel movie of all. We still have Thor Dark World to contend with. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, like, I was not expecting or anticipating like X-Men 97 to, as some people might think, like put them back on the map,
Yeah.
like Marvel is
Yeah.
back
No, I
in
was
full
certainly
swing.
I'm telling you, I don't know why they parted ways with Bo DeMeo, but you better get that dude back, dude. You gotta get that
Yeah.
guy back. Like,
He
I
knows
don't
what he's
know if he
doing.
like,
I don't know if he, just because
yeah,
he can't work well
I
with
don't know
others or
what it
whatever
was that
they're.
they were upset about that they got rid of. And they said apparently some people said he was hard to work with. I was like, he better have been very hard to work with
Yeah.
because
It's I'm really curious how this is going to affect the greater MCU, because now even episode 8, right? Part 1 of 3 of the season finale, execution, which he had written also that like episode 5 was like the 9/11 moment, but he said something like episode 8 is going to
yeah,
be like the biggest gut punch, and thank God it wasn't. I did not feel like that at all. To me, episode 5 was like the most impactful, and this last
yeah,
one,
I don't see the gut punch in, I mean, we got a great moment with Magneto just being like, "Okay, we're done here."
yeah,
Like, I'm not doing this like anymore. And then
yeah.
everybody saying like Magneto was correct, and all that stuff. And
Oh, that was the other
now
thing I
you
was
have
gonna say
Charles coming
about
back.
the previous episode, just one more thought. Like, even, because Bastion is a newer character, he's not like, Magneto from back in the day or any of the old ones, but even if you don't really know him, the way they introduced him and executed him as a character,
Yes. Oh
so
yeah.
creepy, like shaving Magneto while listening to this, the Purple People Eater like record, like
Yeah.
what a creepy villain.
I didn't like Nimrod. I didn't like Master Mold, and I didn't like Bastion. Anytime I read them in the comics, just didn't think that they were that impactful or cool compared to some other people. But they've actually made me a huge fan of them in this story.
Yeah,
Right?
because
It's
they're
just like it's like a Mister Freeze in the Batman the animated series, where you're like,
totally.
prior to the Batman the animated series, he was a dude in a cold suit who robbed banks, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden he's like the most, you know, uh, Mary Shelley Frankenstein esque, tragedy
Yeah,
character
there's
in
just so
all
much
of the Batman
depth.
universe, right?
I mean, Heart of Ice is like one of the greatest animated episodes of anything ever created, it's just
Yeah, it's probably, yeah, it is, certainly is. And now I'm telling you, this is going to wind up being up there. I'm telling you, this is probably
yeah,
going to be an Emmy award winner for sure.
so good. And so yeah, so then the next one again, MCU stuff, right? They showed Spider-Man, they showed Doctor Doom. Um
Yeah, I saw Spider Man, and then there was another character in there after Spider Man that was, I can't remember who else was, but there was a couple others in in that little
yeah, but they keep dropping these
montage that was going on there.
MCU like moments. I wonder, you know, if that means anything, right? We got Deadpool and Wolverine around the corner, all these like multiverse stuff. There was a lot of speculation about how all the X-Men that have been showing up in the MCU, like Beast in the post-credit scene and Professor X and Multiverse of Madness, that they're all like the X-Men 97 multiverse universe. And, they kind of shot that down, but they could also be lying about that. I mean, until the day that Spider-Man No Way Home came out. They're like, no, 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 Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are not in the
Yeah.
movie. And like, okay, so
Right. Yeah.
maybe this is this crossover, and we're gonna see again even Wolverine in Deadpool and Wolverine could be a Wolverine from the animated universe. I don't know. They don't need to
Of
do
course.
that,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
um,
But I think that overall, I think that I mean, how many episodes are left in this season?
two,
Two.
yeah,
Two more. Great. Great. All right. Well, hey, I mean, the ending was phenomenal, right? Like the whole thing with Magneto. I mean, I'm not even talking about Charles coming back because we kind of knew that the minute we saw
yeah.
him in the Shi'ar, in the with the Shi'ar Empire. So, but I'm just talking about Magneto being like, okay, and he just killing all of the
Oh, that's right.
all
Yeah,
of
it
those
ended with the EMP. Like he
Sentinels.
EMP'd the entire
Yeah, he just
planet, and then
EMPs all those Sentinels and just
he's
dumps them
like
all
back
and
to
wipes out the whole planet Earth.
like we're done here. Oh man, I now we
Yeah.
get to see him like full on villain mode again. That's gonna be
Yeah,
great.
and it's funny. Just as Charles comes back, and what's he going to do? He's going to start walking around, going like, "No, no, everybody, hold on, we can bring this back around."
I think I said to you earlier that normally I don't like when things come out weekly. I'm like, just pull a Netflix, like put it all out at once. Let me binge it on my own. Even if I watch it once a week, like I have the option. If I want to watch 2 or 3 episodes in a row, I can watch it at my own pace. And I'm like on the edge of my seat, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to wait till next week. But at the same time, I've kind of appreciated that it's like once a week, and I'm like, oh, I have something to look forward to next Wednesday.
Otherwise, you would have eaten it all up by now, and little nuances would have been lost. Plenty of them would have been lost, right?
Yeah,
Like you would have forgotten more than you would remembered at this point if you had just eaten it up in 10 episodes in one day, right?
yeah,
Or in over the course of a week or two.
yeah,
It's the proper way to ingest television, and the proper way to to be able to write good television is by giving people enough of a break that they can actually just absorb it, and then you make them come back for more, right? It
yeah,
makes them sit with the information that they've been given, so you have to give them proper amounts of information. That's why I was
yeah.
saying, like, I watch Shogun and other shows that are fastly paced. Even X-Men is fastly paced, but you're getting enough information and you're getting enough story content in each episode that you don't feel cheated. You don't feel, um, like anyone's slacking
I
off.
think they had already renewed it for season 2 and 3, which is very exciting to me. I mean, never mind Bo DeMeo. I'm, hopefully whether they get him back or
Man, I
whoever
really hope
else,
they get that dude back.
but they're off to a great start. It's been
Hmm.
an amazing season so far. I'm really excited to see how the season finale plays out. Where it goes with Magneto, where it goes now that Charles is back. Interesting. Now Nightcrawler is part of the team, and Storm will be back. So we're kind of, and you got Wolverine. It's kind of like going back to like X-Men Giant Size, number
Yeah,
one, like,
yeah.
team. We'll see. Maybe
Boy,
they'll get,
Nightcrawler with the swords, and
yeah.
then the sword in his tail.
Oh, the sword fight,
Yep,
I'll give you six
that was
reasons.
great.
Make it
Yeah,
nine,
make it 9 or whatever. Yeah, I'll give
yeah,
you
it
9.
was,
That was great. Cool. Well, I am ready for the next 2 episodes. How about you?
yeah, super excited. And yeah, tell us what you think. Leave a comment below. Let us know. I mean, again, the only thing you had to say really was the pacing, and it's not
Yeah,
like
that's
nothing else.
that's
There's
it.
nothing
It's
wrong
and
with
it's
it.
just that it's too fast. I want more, and I want you to give it to me a little bit slower. So that way I can have more cool stuff to chew on, right?
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, let us know what you think. Tell us what your favorite parts were. What did we forget, and what did we skip over? Um, and we will see you next time. All right,
Um,
leave a comment in the
yeah,
below,
there'll be
and
plenty to talk
tell
about.
Jeff to catch up on Bad Batch.
All right, thanks.
All right, have a good one. See you, everybody.
Yeah.